ready? Okay, Merlin's ready. Merlin's ready. Can you high five? High five. That's a good girl. Hello, bookish people. It's Brittany, and today I am here with my August wrap-up. I read 11 books during this month, and I honestly don't think that has ever happened to me before. I think the most I've done is like 11 in a couple of months. So I am really proud of myself, and I have this wonderful book community to thank for all of this reading and all of the wonderful books that I picked up this month. I am going to go in order of books that I read this month. The first 4 books I read during Booktubeathon, so I won't be going extensively into those because I already did a wrap-up of those. I will link that video down below. It is a part of my Booktubeathon reading vlog and wrap-up, and I talk a lot about these 4 books then. The first book I finished was Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This is an intergalactic story with star-crossed lovers, and it's told through their baby's perspective. They are on the run. This is such a great introduction to the world. I loved every moment. The 9th volume comes out soon. I'm going to read through these probably like once a month or something, but I absolutely loved this. It was such a quick, easy read, but so enjoyable. The art in this book is just absolutely stunning. It is an adult graphic novel and deals with violence and graphic content, sexuality, sex. So if you do not think that you can pick up adult topics or deal with a lot of gore and violence, then maybe this isn't the best pick for you. But if you can deal with it, then yes, please pick this up because it is absolutely worth it. The next book I read was Layer of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is the second book in the Diviners series. This follows our diviners when a dream sickness sweeps through New York and heavily focuses on Henry and Ling, 2 of the diviners. We get to see all the diviners in this book in different ways, and at the end of it, they all come together. I gave this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first one, but I still really liked it. The next book I finished was The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This is a dystopian book that follows Ruby. There is a sickness that only affects children, and a vast majority of the children die from this sickness, and then those who survived somehow get powers. They are then rounded up by the government and put into camps. When Ruby is broken out of this camp, she meets up with 3 other Psy Kids as they try to find East River, which is a supposed safe haven for Psy Kids. But once they get there, not everything is as it seems. The ending of this book is just heartbreaking and wonderful and sets up the next book so well. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved the writing and I loved the characters, and this was just such a great book. The last book I finished for Booktubeathon was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This follows Blue, who lives in a family full of psychics, but she has never seen a ghost until this year on St. Mark's Day, and she sees her first ghost. After that, she gets entangled with 4 prep school boys called the Raven Boys as they go on a quest to find a Welsh king. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I am really excited to read the next one. I thought this was a fun and whimsical story that was just very enthralling, and I never wanted to put down this book, and I never wanted to stop listening. It was just such a great story. The next book I read after Booktubeathon was Timeless by Alexandra Minor. I had plans on reading this during Booktubeathon, but I did not get to my 7 books during that time. I was shooting for 5, and I didn't get to my 5 either, but 4 books in 1 week was really a big deal for me. This book follows Michelle after tragedy strikes, and she must move to New York to live with her grandparents that she's never met. While there, she finds a key that used to belong to her dad and starts going on time-traveling adventures. This was a favorite of mine for a very long time, and I absolutely loved it. I read it in high school, and then I read it 5 years ago, and I still absolutely loved it. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as I had in the past this reread. It was still a good book. I just had a few more problems with it this time. The writing is very simplistic and easy to follow, which is nice. During this book, she has an insta-love connection with Philip, and then she finds out something bad is going to happen to him. She goes on a journey to try and save him. I kind of wish this book was longer. I felt like it seemed a little bit rushed, and it didn't expand upon the parts of the story that you kind of wish. She spends most of her time in this book in 1910. She goes to 1920 for like a little bit of the book, and then she goes to 1940 at the very end of the book for like a chapter, and that's it. And I really wish that in 1920 and 1940 were expanded upon a little bit more, but this story did heavily follow Philip and Michelle learning her time travel abilities. There was weird relationship with her grandparents. It started out very rocky, and then it did this complete 180, and it just felt really weird to me. The twist at the very end, though, I have always loved, and I still loved it. I thought it was very interesting. I kept this rated as 5 out of 5 on Goodreads for nostalgia, but if I was to have read this for the first time and rate it, I probably would have rated it somewhere between 3.5 and 4 stars. It's a good book, worth the read. It's not phenomenal, it's not mind-blowing, but it is a fun and easy read. After Timeless, I picked up the novella Secrets of the Time Society by Alexander Manor. This novella goes in between the two books, Timeless and Timekeeper, and it introduces you to the bad guy of Timekeeper. And I thought it was pretty good at first, and then I read Timekeeper and I changed my mind and decided that this novella was completely useless. All of the information from this novella is introduced in Timekeeper, and this novella takes away from Timekeeper, actually, because you lose some of that shock value. You lose the mystery and suspense in Timekeeper, and it just detracts from Timekeeper. So I thought that it was not worth it. It did get me excited to read Timekeeper, so that was a redeeming quality, and you do get into the mind of the bad guy, but this short novella just did not do it for me. I rated it 2 out of 5 stars. And after that novella, I picked up Timekeeper on Kindle. This book picks up immediately where Timeless left off. I first read this book in 2013, and since then I've basically forgotten all about it except for one scene, and I can tell you why. It is a good book. It is an easy and fun read, just like Timeless is, but it is not as good as Timeless. It's just a funky story where the love in this book feels really forced. The bad guy that is supposed to be after Michelle and trying to destroy Michelle plays very little part in this book. She shows up at the beginning and the end, and that's it. The conclusion to this book seemed very rushed. It happened very quickly, and it seemed like it was actually setting up for another book. And there's not another book. So it's a very open-ended conclusion. The subplot following Michelle's friend Cassie and her love interest has no conclusion either, so you're left hanging there. I mean, there are a lot of loose ends at the end of this book, and you just feels like there should be another book. One of the best parts of this book, though, was we got to see more of Michelle's father, get to know more of his story, read what his life was about, and that was the best part about this whole story. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. It is a fun, easy read. The next book I finished was Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. This is the 3rd book in the Diviners series. This picks up after Layer of Dreams. I would give you a synopsis of this book, but I really could not find a plot. This book just seems to be following the characters as they live their lives normally. There is no overarching plot that propels these characters other than continuing on with their lives and strengthening their powers. This book does not stand on its own. It is a setup book for the next book. I love these characters. I love this world. I love the interesting topics and the plots, and this book has so many wonderful quotes and sayings, and it talks a lot about heavy topics, and it is such a good book for those reasons. But I did struggle to find a plot. It is very character driven, and you can tell that. I still really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up was actually the novella In Time by Alexandra Bracken. This is in the novella bind-up Through the Dark. Alexandra Bracken recommends that you read the first novella before reading Neverfade. And so since I had finished The Darkest Minds during this month, I picked up this novella. This novella is very short but very entertaining. It follows Zoo and a skip tracer named Gabe. I thoroughly enjoyed this story. It shows you what the rest of the population is going through 5 years after this childhood disease sweeps the nation, and we see the economic crisis and how people are trying to survive and trying to make money. We see that, morals have been skewed and how Gabe is questioning everything he knows in this book. This is definitely a story about how one person can make such a huge impact on your life. This is a short, easy, enjoyable, fun, worthwhile, thought-provoking read. I really enjoyed it. It was just as immersive as The Darkest Minds was. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished was Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. This book follows Anne when she travels to New Rains when her adoptive mother goes missing. She is on a quest to find her, and that leads her to Levi. They get mixed up in the city's dangerous side. I listened to this on audiobook, and I absolutely loved the audiobook. I just loved this book in general. I loved the world and how intricate and interesting it was. Everything was well thought out and explained, and it wasn't done in a data-dumpy way. You get bits and pieces, and it's woven into the story. I love Anne and Levi as main characters. I think Anne's character progression was done so well, and I think Levi was already this wonderful character to begin with, but you get to see his walls break down and see different sides of him throughout the book. I thought that was really well done. I also really enjoyed the split talent aspect and how your names come from your families, and your families have talents, and the talent that is most present is your blood talent, and then the other families, your other parents' talent is your split talent. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the politics and the gangs and the crime lords and the setting of this book. I just enjoyed everything about this book. I enjoyed the plot. I just loved this book so much. I am so excited for King of Fools to come out in April. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I think everyone should pick it up. It is just such a fun, interesting, kind of magical read with characters who seem real and that you can get to know. And I just love the setting and the plot of this book. I wish I had ended this month with this book instead of ending the month with A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. This book is an absolute classic. I read it a long time ago, and so I wanted to pick it up because I didn't really remember anything. Like Timekeeper, there's a reason I didn't remember anything. I feel really, really bad for not liking this book. It actually has been weighing on me since I started it. I went into this book thinking, oh, I'm going to love it. Maybe this will be my new favorite book, and I can pick up like all the different covers or whatever, and I could just devour this book and want to reread it all the time. I never go into a book thinking I'm going to hate it or thinking that I'm going to dislike it or anything like that. I always go into a book with an open mind, with a lot of hopes, and I didn't get it in this one. I did not like the main characters. I did not like how confusing it was and how things weren't explained. You're left with a lot of questions at the end. The ending of this one also seems very rushed, and I don't like how it ends. I don't like the solution to facing the bad guy. I don't like the bad guy. I know that bad guy is supposed to be some kind of metaphor. This book just didn't do it for me. I almost DNF'd this book 3 times. 3 times. I almost DNF'd it in the middle of reading. I would be in the middle of a sentence and say, I should DNF this book in my mind. I just could not do this book. And I felt so bad. because everyone seems to love this book, and it is a classic for a reason, and it's got a good message, and it's got good points at the very end of the book. I almost don't want to rate this because I just feel so bad for how much I didn't like it. And I can't say that enough. I wanted to like this book, but I didn't. I do have a lot of tabs, a lot of quotes, because Madeline does add in a lot of like philosophical or Shakespeare quotes in here. One of the main characters says that this quote is from Euripides. I think it says, "Nothing is hopeless, we must hope for everything." This is my favorite quote, and this reminds me so much of just humanity and people in general. And so this quote right here has resonated with me, and this will stick with me, but the story, maybe not so much. This quote is, "The complete, the true Mrs. Whatsit, Meg realized, was beyond human understanding. What she saw was only the game Mrs. Whatsit was playing. It was an amusing and charming game, a game full of both laughter and comfort, but it was only the tiniest facet of all the things Mrs. Whatsit could be." I love the quotes in here. They are pretty great, and there is a point where Meg realizes that her dad can't do everything and can't save the whole world. And I think that, when you're kids, you want your parents to not only do everything for you, but to save everything and make everything better, and sometimes that's not how things work, and I did like that message, and I absolutely loved Aunt Beast and the planet Ixal. I really wish we had dove more into that planet and the politics and the way that those creatures live and survive and how their society works. I loved that part. It also has an open-ended conclusion, and it's just very weird. And the next book, I read the synopsis for the next book, and it doesn't seem to follow how this book ended. So if you enjoyed any of these books, even if they're books I didn't enjoy, tell me why you enjoyed them. If you enjoyed the books that I also enjoyed, tell me why down in the comments. I really want to know. I had such a wonderful reading month, and a lot of these books were very highly rated, and so I had a really good reading month. And I'm so proud of myself for getting through 11 books. I really hope you guys had as great of a reading month that I did. Tell me how many books you read. Tell me what books you read. That's all for me. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the bookish content that I post. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!